Historic doesn't always equal classic, but in this case, the brand game, the helmet game, the historic matchup delivered on the field. And Michigan delivered for sure in the clutch at the end on offense and defense. Yes, offense as well, of course, with the running game. Michigan survives USC 27-24. Please like the video and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. We break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your participation. Here we go. Michigan, of course, had no pass game. Didn't even try to throw it, really. Everything was behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know that Alex Orji has yet to complete a pass beyond the line of scrimmage. I know that was his dubious distinction entering the game, but he was the clear choice after Davis Warren threw 6 to the other guys through 3 games. Of course, Davis Warren, a much better passer. There was a time back in spring football and throughout the summer competition that we thought, well, maybe they're comparable passers. Maybe Alex Orji just is less experienced and doesn't know how to read a defense, go through his progressions. Well, we were right about that. But there is no comparison between these two guys as passers. But you cannot give the football away if you're going to play Michigan-style football, especially. And so Alex Orji was the correct selection here. But make no mistake about it, Sharon Moore has botched the quarterback situation, and he almost botched this game. So Orji went 7 of 12 for 32 yards. That's what he did. That equaled nothing. They might as well have taken those 12 pass attempts and just run the ball all of those times. But the run game hit on big plays. The run game was not consistent, but it hit on the 2 enormous plays. One from Donovan Edwards, one from Khalil Mullings, who was a beast, a man on this day, 53 yards and 41 yards, and Michigan led 14-0. And the Michigan defense was remarkable on this day. There were likenesses made from the Texas offense to the USC offense, and that the USC offense, when you look at premium play caller, elite NFL-style pocket passer, all the skill position guys, all the weapons on the outside, good running backs in the backfield, offensive line, that there was a comparison to be made between Texas, who, of course, throttled Michigan from the first drive on, to USC. However, Texas offensive line, elite. USC offensive line, good. But we saw Josiah Stewart in particular abuse his man and the back many times. And we saw the Michigan pass rush as a whole make a huge impact on this game. This was the biggest impact made by the Michigan Wolverines, was the defensive front and the pass rush and the heat, the pressure put on Miller Moss consistently, and just driving him to the ground, beating him up through 51 pass attempts. Michigan threw it 12 times, USC threw it 51 times. Woody Marks is a really good football player. I watched him play many times at Mississippi State. He didn't really stand out to me necessarily. I knew he was a good player, good enough to start for Power 5 teams. Also has the longest consecutive streak of pass receptions in all of college football. But he jump-started this offense when it was 14-0. From their own 6, USC was able to drive down the field and get a field goal. And again, they were stopped inside their own 5-yard line after some really curious play calling by Lincoln Riley that could have been disastrous, because I was getting flashbacks to Joe Theismann throwing to Jack Squirick, pick 6 in the end zone in the Super Bowl of 1984. That almost happened with Derek Moore cutting off a pass in the end zone as Miller Moss was throwing the ball in the end zone. Not out of the end zone, in the end zone. That's not a good idea. Lincoln Riley, possibly the best play caller in all of college football, didn't have his best series there. But Woody Marks bailed him out. Quentin Johnson saved a pass interference that might have set up a USC touchdown in the first half too, that resulted in a field goal because there was a tipped pass by Quentin Johnson, because there was clear pass interference downfield. And On that second drive down the field that USC tried to cut into the lead after they went on the field goal drive, Kenneth Grant sniffed that out, stuffed it, and sacked Miller Moss to keep this game at 14-3. All right, we went to the second half, and Michigan awfully predictable. We expected them to be. They played the game that they had to play on offense, but they got to figure something out, because I can't imagine that they're going to have to be able to play like this against Oregon and Ohio State in particular. 3rd and 5. They dropped back Alex Orji just a couple times in this game, like straight drop back passes, and one was on a 3rd and 5. And USC, D'Anton Lynn, of course, one of the best in the business, dialed up a blitz from both edges, because you got to figure, if this guy can't throw the ball and he is not comfortable in the pocket selecting a receiver, well, put pressure on him. See if he can beat a blitz. Are you kidding me? And, well, USC went 12 plays, 75 yards right after the break, and that was the first touchdown drive. And they started to run the ball and kept Michigan honest on defense. That was one of the keys to the game in USC coming back from 14 down. They had a pretty good surge there. They had a 24-6 run on Michigan, and they were clearly the better team in much of the second quarter. And throughout the third quarter, it was crazy how USC dominated this game, 236 yards to 6 at one point. That was the case for Michigan in the third quarter. They had 2 drives, 2 3-and-outs, 6 plays, 6 yards. It was a mess. And USC was starting to loosen up that Michigan defense. Deuce Robinson found the hole in the zone for the touchdown. And USC was outlined by Gary Danielson on the broadcast, how they made adjustments along the offensive line at halftime to space the offensive line tighter. Then also they made a personnel change also along the offensive line. But for as well as USC was playing and dominating this game, Michigan was still playing tough, resistant on defense, non-existent on offense. The offense was horrendous, but they stayed in the game, and Michigan made, again, the one big play. You would think that USC would have been making the big plays, but USC, like if you would rate and rank each play and say, who won this play? And you went through the entire play-by-play for the entire game. Well, USC won the majority of plays. They won 80% of the plays. However, Michigan made the enormous plays. Will Johnson. It was 14-10. USC's got the ball back after another 3-and-out. And Will Johnson breaks on the football. He probably won the Thorpe Award with this play. Jumped the route. It was recognized by Gary Danielson that Zachariah Branch needed to come back to the football. He actually was fading away from the pass, and it gave Will Johnson a clear cut. But when you saw the entire field of view, it was mighty impressive what Will Johnson saw, broke on the football. So the combination of film study and athleticism, pick 6, 20-10, blocked PAT could have come into play in this one. Marks made a huge run. The offensive line started to run block for USC. They got down to the 2-yard line. And then we had that crazy sequence where Michigan's pass rush once again got to Miller Moss. Did he throw the ball or not? Well, if you're going to go with the NFL rules, maybe the arm was coming forward. However, I thought they got the play right when they reviewed it. It was called a fumble on the field. I believe it was a fumble. I don't go for this. The arm's barely moving forward. Therefore, it's a pass. It's not a pass. The quarterback still has control of the football. Therefore, it's a fumble until it leaves his hand. That's how the rule should read. But it's fumbled. Kenneth Grant picks it up. And then Woody Marks does what Maurice Clarett did in the Fiesta Bowl National Championship game of 20-some years ago against Miami. Ripped the ball out of Sean Taylor's hand. The late, great Sean Taylor, of course. This time it's Woody Marks on Kenneth Grant. Probably won't be quite as historic, but pretty significant, especially, though, that Michigan came back and won the game. But that was just a heads-up play from Woody Marks, who, by the way, 13 carries for 100 yards against that Michigan defense. And, of course, USC took it in, and this is when momentum was really snowballing on the side of USC because they get that play to go their way. They're just racking up 236 yards in a quarter. That's crazy. That's a 1,000-yard pace. And then Michigan blows the coverage, and Jay Fair scores the touchdown with nobody around him because his man blitzed. Nobody picked him up. And it was suddenly 20-17. And again, Michigan's third quarter was non-existent. Keep in mind that Michigan's best offensive player, well, that could be argued at this point. But going into the season, we believed it to be Colston Loveland. He did not play. And then the play that at the point that it occurred appeared to possibly be the backbreaker for Michigan when Eric Gentry punched the ball out from Donovan Edwards and recovered the fumble at the Michigan 18. And then on a 3rd and 16, after Michigan put all that pressure back on Moss, including the sack by Mason Graham, I believe, he throws a dart to Jacoby Lane. The safety got over late and was not aggressive on the football, just kind of O-laid it. 3rd and 16 quarterback or touchdown grab there. And suddenly you've got a USC lead for the first time in this game. Miller Moss, 28 of 51, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Only 283 yards, though. So that attests to the Michigan tackling. That attests to Michigan not giving up the big play through the air and tackling. 51 pass attempts, 283 yards is a good defensive stat. At this point is when I was clamoring for Sharon Moore to put in a quarterback that could throw the ball. Now, it all worked out for Michigan, but I will still stand on the principle that with 2.5 minutes left, 2:48, I believe, was the exact number, trailing by 4 points, 24-20. They had to score a touchdown. The kickoff shouldn't have been run back, but they ran it back to like the 15-yard line. They needed an 85-yard drive. You needed a passing quarterback in the game. Michigan, I'm not going to say they lucked out. They made the play. It's Khalil Mullings. They made one play. And the offensive line, of course, blocked it, and Khalil Mullings dragged the defensive back, John Humphrey, spun away from him, and Khalil Mullings won the game with one play and got it down to the 17-yard line. Now, credit Michigan from there because the way they couldn't throw the ball to travel another 17 yards took something. So, of course, they just continued to slam Mullings ahead time after time after time. Eked out 2 first downs. Got him down to the 2-yard line. It came down to a 4th down play. And Michigan stayed with what they do. Most teams in that situation would have thought, man, we have pounded and pounded and pounded. And 2.5 yards is a long distance when the other team believes you're going to run the football. So we'll pull it out, trust our quarterback to hit somebody that's going to leak out. No, or we'll roll him out and give him the option. But no. You put the game on your offensive line. If you're Michigan, you do. If you're most teams, you put it in your hands of the quarterback. But if you're Michigan, you don't have a quarterback. So you got a running back playing quarterback. Offensive line, Khalil Mullings, of course. They bring in the fullback, Bredesen, who's isolated, takes out the linebacker or the safety and paves the way for Khalil Mullings. And there you go. And then the Michigan defense took over on the final drive and brought home the victory. So defense, big plays in the running game. That's what did it for Michigan. Pass rush, run the football, slam it straight ahead, stay committed to the run because most of the run plays for Michigan did not work. But they broke enough. They broke 3 to win the game. They won the game on a pick 6, a pass rush, and 3 running plays. USC won all the other plays, but it doesn't matter because Michigan wins the game 27-24. Coming up for USC, a really good football team who stood up to the challenge of Big Ten muscle, and they proved to be worthy of it. They were just as good as Michigan. They were actually the better team. Michigan made the plays, credit them with a win. USC was the better football team on this day, clearly up and down the field, could operate an offense. And again, if Michigan wants to make a college football playoff, I really think that they need to try to figure something out at quarterback. But they got Minnesota coming up. They should be able to handle the Gophers at home. USC's got an interesting date with Wisconsin that game at the Coliseum. And of course, it's the bounce back of fact of coming off a big game, whether that's a big win or a big loss. Of course, Michigan players are more accustomed to this sort of thing than USC. They've got backup quarterback Braden Locke and the Badgers coming to town. Your thoughts about USC and Michigan? Again, a historic matchup and a classic game, and it delivered. You deliver as well on the like button, and please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. We'll be back with more instant analysis and, of course, our post-game call-in show right here at the Voice of College Football.